one of the things I talk about in the choice that you really hit on is that we are living in the time of the apocalypse, but most people think of the word apocalypse as the end of the world, like the film 2012, where we have pole shifts and floods and, the core ripping apart from the earth and all these kinds of things. But the word apocalypse simply means to unveil that which has been veiled, or to reveal that which has been hidden. And, it coincides with the fact that we're moving from the age of Pisces, which is the occult age, into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of enlightenment and knowledge. And I think it's entirely possible that what you say, that there may have been some more, Mayan codices that survived that we may find revealed to us. But I kind of get the feeling we're not going to get that information until after this is all over.
Yeah, well.
I think it will affect our choice. And
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, and you're also right that there were something like 1,500 Mayan codices.
Yeah.
And they were, apparently they were almost all burned except 4 that survive today. And the most important is the Dresden Codex, which tells us, about the end of the world kind of thing and what's going to happen. But you're right. It could be that the other 1,400, talk about how we're all going to, go running off into the sunset singing Kumbaya together. And the Dresden Codex may be the only one that says things are going to be bad. So, we don't know that.
Well, it could be just a potential. It could be a potential, right?
What's that?
I mean, the ones that we're looking at could be just part of the potential.
Exactly, and that's what I came to really believe as I began to study this and study other ancient cultures, because the ancient Vedas, the Hindus, their root culture also pointed to this time as the end of a yuga cycle, a time when we would transition from one state of being into another, and so they put the end of it at 2023. So I think we're in what I call the 2012 era. And the changes that we're going to experience have already begun. And what seems to be being set up, if you look at the astronomy, which drives the astrology, is that we are all going to have to make a choice. We're going to have to basically kind of come to a very black and white place where we're going to have to say, okay, am I of, the mind, or am I of the spirit? And am I interested in just serving myself, or am I interested in serving others? So that's what I see happening in general, and of course in the choice, in the book, I go into a lot of detail on different possibilities for how that could all manifest.
So because we got right into the heart of some of the stuff you talk about. So let's go back to the beginning here of your book, because you talk about the whole theories and put together a whole lot of different theories and concepts about how this solar system came to be the way that it is.
Right.
And I would love for you, to talk about that. But before you do that, let's mention 2 things here. Number 1 is your website, Mike Bara, MikeBara.com, MikeBara.com. The book is not quite out, but it's ready for pre-order, so woohoo! We got you on before the book's even out. So
actually, it's out. It's actually out. People that are ordering from Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com are getting it. And I was just in a bookstore yesterday, and I was in a Barnes and Noble and a Borders, and they both had copies.
Yay!
So,
well,
it was kind of thrilling, because Dark Mission was a thrill, but this is my second book and my first solo, so I was like, wow, this is really cool. There it is on the shelf.
Yeah.
Right next to The Secret, in one case.
Yeah, see, look at me. I'm right there. See, that's me, guys. It's standing next to me. Go ahead, buy that. It's me.
Yeah, please buy this.
Yeah, please. So there you go. You just told everyone where to go get it. They go to Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble, and order it online, or go into local bookstores.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and just I'm all over the place. Like everybody is these days.
Yeah. It's fascinating, but that whole thing. But that's not what we're here for tonight.
No.
I mean, I could talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, you talked about the original solar system. The reason why I find that fascinating is because recently, when I say recent, within the last year or so, I've been given a lot of information, shall we say, and shown a lot of visions about how things came to be. But, it's not like a continuous story like you sit down and watch a movie and it's all right there, right? I get these little bits and pieces. And so I found your that whole chapter on that quite interesting because it put together some of the pieces for me. So I thank you for that.
Thanks. Good. Okay. Well, then I feel reinforced then by your information.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Well, so go right ahead. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess to start with this, what I want people to know is that the apocalypse is not something that happens to you. It is something that you can actively participate in, and that is all based on this physics, the real physics of how this universe really works, which Richard Hoagland called hyperdimensional physics. And basically what it says is that all energy comes from a higher dimension. It comes from a higher place. And how that energy is pulled into this universe is through spin or rotation. In other words, the rotation of planets spinning on their axis and the movement of planets in a circular motion or rotation around, let's say, a central star is going to create energy. And that energy is coming from higher up. The system is not closed. So what that means is that all physics is local. In other words, the laws of physics here in this solar system are different than they are going to be in a different solar system with a different configuration of planets, because it's all an interconnected system.
Thank you.
And in our case, in our solar system, what's happened is that there have been some planetary catastrophes, the things that have happened in the ancient past that have changed the original configuration. The way, I guess, God originally intended it is different now. There's a couple planets that have demonstrably exploded that aren't there anymore, and this is all based on theories of the late Dr. Tom Van Flandern, who wrote a great, very detailed, very physics-oriented book called Dark Matter, Missing Planets, and New Comets back in, I think, the late 1990s. And, Tom was a champion of the idea that how planets were formed is not this silly sort of dumb accretion model where a bunch of stuff just starts to clump together and then planets run into each other, and rather than destroying each other, they somehow magically glue themselves together. What he said was that the sun collapses, it ignites, it gathers up all this dust and gas and material and stuff, and it gets to spin so fast, there's so much energy coming from higher up that it sort of gives birth to the planets out of its belly button, basically, out of its equator. And this seems to fit, how our solar system got formed in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of technical arguments that reinforce that. So in a really eloquent, almost poetic way, the sun gave birth to the planets, but not all of the planets, like a lot of children, not all your children make it to adulthood, and not all the planets are still there. So what this means is that the physics of our solar system is a little bit messed up. And what that then means is that the Earth itself is vulnerable to outside influences, because every time you have an alignment of planets, or you have planets in certain configurations that coincide with astrology, positive or negative configurations, you're going to get fluctuations and changes in how, electronic signals transmit, how they resonate, the frequency at which they resonate, and you're also going to affect human consciousness. And I think I prove pretty well in the book that that's really how things work, and that our consciousness is going to be changed by this series of alignments that we're going through right now in this time period. So
okay, so let me just interject here for you.
Sure.
I have a lady that comes on my show a couple times a month. She's an astrologer, but she also does it based on the energies of the solar system, not just what is the I guess the written information as far as what stuff means, right? So
right.
She combines both of them, and we have long conversations about astronomy and astrology. Mm-hmm. And how it fits, and I just want to give you a kudos for putting those two together again for everyone, as kind of confirmation for everyone, as well as confirmation for you that it gets talked about a lot, that astronomy and astrology belong together, because that's where they come from. And thank you for sharing the fact that physics isn't the same everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the same everywhere, and I mean, there's lots of experiments that have shown that. And again, you're correct. It's the astronomy that drives the astrology. It's these planetary configurations that are changing our behaviors and causing these I guess, upheavals, you could call them, in our culture that are going to take place in the next 10 years or so. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. I think there's a lot of things about the planet that need to be changed. But the really cool thing about all of it is that, and here's another thing too, is the ancient cultures, why the Mayans knew this time was important and why the Vedas did and why the Hopis did, was because they were more connected to spirit than we are today. They were less intellectual, and they instinctively understood that all these things were all connected, that the planets had an influence over us. So,
I have to agree. I think the energies themselves lend to a person's, I guess, wisdom, if you want to call it that, or their knowledge. And I think that if people would get what I call back into the flow of life, not necessarily going to that 9-to-5 job, but if they got back into the flow of life, and life is energy, it's everywhere, it is all, what a whole different planet this would be. What a whole different planet this would be.
Yeah, I concur with you absolutely. So, what's interesting now is that on top of all these local alignments we have that are really significant, is we're also in this period where we're coming into this galactic alignment with the center of the galaxy, which is also a tremendous source of energy and life energy and hyperdimensional energy. So that influence is going to be added. The last time we were in an astrological configuration like this, I guess, was around the time of the American Revolution. So let's take that, plus now we're adding in the fact that we are coming to this December 21st solstice alignment with the galactic center, which is adding its energy on top of it, which only happens once every 26,000 years. And there's literally, the physics says there's no way you cannot have major transition and major change.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do right now. That is a perfect place for us to stop.
Okay.
Because that I really want to focus in on that, and I don't want to get caught in the middle of that and have to take a break. Now you're getting into the juicy stuff, Mike. So you guys hang on, because we're going to be right back with more of Mike Bara right after this. Stay with us, please.
Check out Rebecca's website for the latest Journeys news and more. Log on to www.journeyswithrebecca.com.
All right, everyone, welcome back, and you are listening to Journeys with Rebecca, and my guest tonight is Mike Bara. So let's just get right back at it, if you don't mind, Mike.
Sure.
Let's, because this whole galactic center thing and what's happening astronomically in the physics sense and all of that and the mechanicals, this is the stuff that is important for people.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, it really comes back to the Mayans, and there's a monument near Tortuguera, I believe, in Mexico, that tells the story of the Bolan Yukti, who will manifest here, in 3D reality on December 21st, 2012. And basically what the message says is that Quetzalcoatl, the god, will ride a serpent rope from the center of the galaxy, manifest here in 3D reality, and will judge all of us. So that's what they say is going to happen in 2012. Now, that's really interesting to me, because one of the things I talk about in the choice, in the book, is something called torsion physics, which is the idea that the real unified field theory of physics that they've all been looking for, the physicists have been trying to find some way to connect electromagnetism and gravity and all the forces that they observe